morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're live, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, good morning, everybody. I'm Mike Collier. I'm the chair of this meeting. This is a meeting of the Hertfordshire Local Government Pension Scheme Pension Board. I'd like to start by welcoming Jack Byford to the board, who's been appointed as a member representative. Hi, Jack.
Hi, thank you. Yep, glad to be here.
We've had apologies from Gail Johnson, and for the benefit of anyone watching this broadcast, I'd like to ask members of the board to introduce themselves, including what their position is on the board. And if I go in the order I have them on my list, Jolyon.
Hiya, I'm the employer rep for schools and academies.
Thank you. Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah Ansell. I'm an employer representative from the University of Hertfordshire.
Thank you very much. James Kidd.
Sorry, mute button. Hi, I'm James Kidd. I work for Hertfordshire Constabulary and I'm the employer representative.
Thank you. Adam Mitchell.
Hello, I'm Adam Mitchell. I'm the Vice Chairman and I'm a County Councillor for Broadwater in Stevenage.
Okay, thank you. And the standing substitutes, Terry.
Yes, as implied, I'm a standing substitute, normally for Adam, and I cover him in his absence. So I attend this meeting just to keep up to date. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Brian Kane. Brian.
Apologies, muted there. Yeah, I'm Brian Kane, substitute for James, and I'm the employer representative for Watford Council.
Okay, thank you. And Rob McCarthy.
He hasn't been able to join us yet, Chairman.
Right, okay. Okay, that's fine. On to the member reps then. Jack Byford.
Hi, Jack Byford, member representative and HCC employee.
Okay. And Tim Perkins.
Tim Perkins, member representative, retired chief officer of Abbots Langley Parish Council, now happily retired.
Thank you. James Hurley.
Member rep, substitute and deferred scheme member. Good morning.
Good morning. And Sharon Moore.
Morning. I'm a deferred member as a former employee of the University of Hertfordshire, and I'm a substitute member rep.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, I have to ask members whether they have any financial or pecuniary interests related to specific matters on the agenda. I'll take silence as confirmation that nobody has. Just checking nobody's got their hands up. Actually, it's probably a useful point at which to say that if anybody wishes to contribute to the debate as we go through, if you could use the hands up feature, and we will be voting using the comments or the text. Sorry, someone have to help me. The official name for that now, it's suddenly gone.
Chat. The chat.
Sorry? The chat function. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Okay, so we move then to the minutes of the last meeting, which is the meeting held on the 22nd of April. This is from page 5 of your agenda pack. Anybody got any comments on those? Or questions? No. That being the case, can I ask for you to agree them or not using the chat function? Thank you very much.
Minutes are agreed, Chaired.
Thank you very much. Okay, right, in that case, we move on to item 2, which is the Local Government Pension Fund Admin Report from the Local Pension Partnership. And I believe we have John and Rachel to introduce. Perhaps as you do so, you'd like to introduce your own positions in your organisation, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Morning, everyone. So I'm John Crowhurst. I'm the Commercial Director at LPPA. Rachel?
Morning, everybody. Rachel Blundell. I'm the Operations Director at LPPA.
Okay, so over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'll introduce the performance report like we normally do, and I'm also going to give the board an update on Project PACE, because obviously that's been the key strategic programme. Rachel's here today as well to support with answering any questions that I can't answer. A lot of change has happened in the last 3 months, and Rachel's team are the ones that are predominantly using the UPM system, so that there may be things that Rachel can add that I can't, that happens day to day. So thanks, Rachel, for coming along today. I'll do the Project PACE update first. So the last time we met, we were preparing to go live. So since then we've gone live. So at the end of March, we have successfully gone live on the new system. So 9 of our 18 clients are now live, which is about half of the membership that we represent. So it's about 300,000 members now have successfully transferred across, and we're operating on that system successfully. The phase 2 clients, so the remaining 9, are going to transition across between October and December this year. So by the end of the calendar year, we'll be operating on one system, which will remove that complexity that we have to deal with trying to manage the service across both systems for our clients. The member portal, Pension Point, is live. The last time I checked the numbers, the Hertfordshire Pension Fund had about 14,000 members that successfully re-registered. Before we transferred and changed the member portal, you had about 37,500 members registered, so it's still below the number, but we didn't expect it to be up at that number within a few weeks of go live. We're expecting another spike, an increase in registrations at the end of August when the annual benefit statements go out. We always see a spike in registrations when we do a bulk publication, so hopefully we'll get more signed up around that time. The employer portal is live. Employers are using that portal. We've been receiving online forms since March. It's significantly increased the usage of that portal in May, and obviously we're successfully receiving year-end files from employers. There's been teething problems with the portal. It hasn't all been plain sailing, but hopefully we're starting to knock over some of the hypercare issues that we've had on that. It's not perfect yet, but we're working closely with employers to resolve any issues. The data migration itself was successful. We've paid pensioners successfully from the new system, and April pensions increase was successfully run. So all of the big activity that needed to take place has happened, which is positive. From a performance perspective, the report that you've got in the pack only covers up until the end of March. So obviously a lot's happened since then. So I wanted to give you an update as to where we are now. You can see in the report that there was a dip in normal performance in March, and we did expect there to be a dip in performance as we transition clients across. So what we agreed with the fund was temporary relaxed SLAs. So for payment related cases, it was a temporary relaxation to 90% rather than the usual 95%. For other related cases, it was 70%. I don't have the figures to hand for April, May and June, but I do know we've had to use those relaxed SLAs during this transitionary period. So the reason that we've had some challenges and we expected it to be bumpy is because, a number of factors. The first is before we go live with each client, there's a 3 to 5 working day blackout period, which essentially means we can't process anything on the system. So straight away when we go live, there is a backlog of work, for want of a better term, that we need to catch up on, which creates a spike in the operational teams that we need to manage. We did see, and we've seen that throughout each of the clients that have gone live, and we've moved people across to work on the new system, a dip in productivity. So people are less productive initially when they start working on the new system, because they're still trying to become familiar with the processes. But we have seen significant increases in output, since go live, which is positive. We're fundamentally measuring the service levels differently in the new system. The clock essentially starts ticking from the time we create the process. in UPM. And if we've got 5 working day service level, that is the total time that LPPA have got to complete the activity that we need to undertake for a particular process. So as a quick example, for a retirement process in the previous system, if we had a 5-day service level, we were typically picking that up on the 4th or 5th day. We would then send retirement options to the member and the case would go back on hold. When we receive those retirement options back, the clock restarts. We've got another 5 days to do everything. Whereas in UPM, it's not configured in that way. We're picking things up now within 24 hours. We're trying to triage everything quickly so that we're not delaying anything that may be missing and raising queries. So straight away, the team have had to cope with trying to get on top of everything within 24 hours, which created a spike in work. But we believe that this is going to deliver a better member experience over time, and we do expect to see elapsed times for processes reduce. It's probably too early to say that it's having that desired effect, but we would expect that in 6 months' time that it will be moving in the right direction. And we've also seen a number of hypercare issues, and I mentioned this to you at the last board, that some of the processes do have issues, some of which is within our control to fix, and some we do rely on Civica to resolve. So a lot of those issues have been resolved. There's not too many processes sitting there that can't be processed. So we have had some initial bumps in the road. From a help desk perspective, our call wait times significantly increased above the aspirational target 4 minutes. So you can see in the pack that it was up at 15 minutes. I think it actually peaked over 20 minutes at one point. Again, we've seen a record number of calls coming into the help desk, partly contributing because of the blackout period of members contacting us asking for updates on their processes. We were taking a lot longer than we normally would to respond to email and web inquiries, which naturally generates calls. When we did bulk communications to members asking them to re-register for pension point, that created calls into the help desk, and we had a typically busy time anyway with March and April when we send the pensions increase and P60 notifications out. So all of that activity has contributed to significant increases in call wait times. That said, we seem to have come out of that now. We're in a much more positive position. A couple of things that we did within the team is we put more resource to handling the calls. We recruited a dedicated trainer to support the help desk advisors, which makes being able to train and deploy people a lot quicker, having a dedicated trainer in the team. So the wait times for April average was 16 minutes. In May, it was 13 minutes. In June, it was 5 minutes. And July, month to date, is 2 minutes. So much more positive. Which is good. Obviously, a challenge that we're going to have when the phase 2 clients go live is we're going to continue to do engagement activity to try and get people to register for pension points. So Rachel and I are going to think about how we manage that increase in calls so that we can manage the call wait times when they go live. The web form and emails, again, we were taking a lot longer because of all of the spikes in work to respond to inquiries. 2 to 3 weeks. BAU would have been 1 or 2 days. Pleased to report now that we are back down to a 24 or 48 hour turnaround on the mailboxes, which again is positive. And the last thing that I wanted to provide the board with an update on, which I have included in the pack today, is where we are with the year-end valuation and annual benefit statement processes. Obviously, key activity, statutory activity. So we have received 275 of the 311 expected employer files, which is about 88% of employers. That said, it represents 99% of the membership, so we've got most of the data in from employers, which is really positive. We've processed 113 of those 275 files, which is about 4,000 members. So just over 10% of the membership we've processed. We are behind the timeline that we would be normally working to. We've been working with officers and the fund actuary to replan the valuation submission dates. And obviously the ultimate date for us to work towards is making sure that we can get the annual benefit statements out by the 31st of August. If I'm honest, we are still behind where we'd expect to be. That said, we have moved 2 people that are familiar with the Hertfordshire Pension Fund back onto processing year-end returns. They were still in the business but working in different areas. They've come back to support, and our system supplier Civica have also costing returns alongside our team. So we've effectively put more resource into processing the returns. The run rate is a lot more positive. The two largest files, the two main files for the council, we're about 75% of the way through. So I'd expect that early next week those two files would have been processed, which will increase the total number of members with member data all completely updated to about 75%. So you'll see, we should see a big spike going into next week. But as I say, we're still behind where we'd like to be. We're monitoring this actively through a steering group that meets every other day, and I'm regularly reporting to the fund's progress to make sure that that we're on track and that we're doing everything that we can to hit that deadline. But if I'm honest with the board, we're still behind where we need to be at this stage. So thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to. Rachel and I have to take any questions unless Rachel, you want to add anything else to what I've said.
No, thank you, John. Nothing specific.
Okay. Anybody have any questions then? I've got James and Sarah. So James first. That's James Kidd.
Hi, yeah, sorry, just put my camera on. So yeah, John, you mentioned briefly towards the beginning about the issues with the portal. Just from our experience alone, we had extreme difficulties with the portal, and this came, around the deadline. There was communication of a final deadline of, I think it was the 20th of June or something around there, and even up to that deadline we were having extreme difficulties. For example, our payroll department having to log on dozens of times to get onto the portal, and that we've been unable to request pension strain data through the portal. So that's our experience. So we've got it uploaded now, but it was after the final deadline. So my question to you is this quite typical of other employers? How many other employers are having these difficulties, and what are LPPA doing to rectify the issues with the portal?
Thanks, James. So you're not the only employer that's had challenges, James, if I'm completely honest. And it's not just the Hertfordshire employers either. So it's been a mix of employers having different challenges. Some have been firewall issues at the other side that our IT team have had to work with the other IT team to resolve. But there's been, a report of various bugs, that some of which have been resolved, some of which we're still investigating with Civica. So I acknowledge that it's not been plain sailing. Hopefully our employer engagement team have been as proactive as they can to try and navigate some of the issues. What I will say, and I was speaking to officers last week about this, if there is anything that you can't get through to us because you can't access the portal or the portal's not working, then if you escalate through normal channels, we will work out how we can deal with a workaround so that we're not holding up you receiving information from us. So anything like that, report the issue. We'll work with the systems supplier and our systems team to resolve them, but we'll then come back to you and say this is how we can deal with a workaround, because we don't want to hold anything up.
Yeah, and absolutely. And just to mention, I have gone to the team separately, and they've been very accommodating. So just to say that they've been excellent on that. But that's through my privilege of knowing the team and knowing who to go to. Maybe the other employers don't necessarily know that. So how close are you to getting these issues resolved? Is it going to be a problem that drags on, or?
I don't have. There'll be some issues that are quicker to resolve than others. I haven't got the list to hand as to what's outstanding. So I'm happy to take that away and come back to officers on the timeline. But obviously we're proactively trying to resolve these issues, because we know that employers are going to be accessing that portal, probably every week to submit information to us. And if there's problems that are within our control to fix, then we need to be knocking those over. So we'll keep you in the loop, or we'll keep officers in the loop who can then pass on messages to employers around what we're doing. So I'll take that away, James.
Yeah, if I may, Chair, could I request certain updates given at the next meeting?
I think that would be very appropriate. Is that okay, John?
Absolutely fine. Yeah.
Lovely.
Thank you, Sarah.
Hi, yes, and my question is about monthly data from employers. Originally, the plan was for employers to submit their monthly data by the UPM from April, but this was postponed due to unforeseen difficulties with year-end submissions. Is there now a revised plan for when employers are going to start submitting monthly?
Yes, there will be. We're still going to take the same approach that we were planning to take previously, I think. And Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, we are going to use a pilot group of employers, so that we've not got everyone trying to do the same thing. And if we have got challenges, we then got to try and deal with hundreds of employers rather than a small pool. We have taken, obviously the ultimate goal is to get the monthly return submissions in. Because that's going to improve the information flow between all parties. But we had to take the decision that we're behind on year end. Our data team are focusing solely on getting those year end files processed. So if we started to overlay that with monthly return submissions and inquiries coming in, that it was just going to be really, really difficult for us to manage, and employers will probably become even more frustrated with us because you're not getting responses in reasonable time frames. So still prepare your payroll provider and you as an employer, still prepare the files in readiness for submission. I can't remember if comms has gone out recently, Rachel, to communicate where we're at.
I don't think so. I don't think it's gone yet. I mean, what I would say is that a lot of the work that's been done on the annual files, it ticks two boxes, because the monthly file, will essentially benefit from a lot of that work that's being done. But the way that UPM works is all the data has to be sequential. So if we started to receive monthly files before we'd processed annual ones, there was a danger that would do damage, if you like, to the data, which we can't afford to do because of valuation and ABS. So it's about trying to make sure that we're timing this, so that the data integrity is maintained. But I genuinely think the work that we're doing to get the annual returns working partly solves the problem of getting the monthly returns working as well. So yeah, we it's disappointing that there has been a delay, but it's absolutely key, because otherwise we could end up with some data issues that we wouldn't want to see. But we can certainly, I've taken a note, we can certainly come back with a fuller update at the next board around the timescales and progress, etc. And particularly the issues around the employer portal as well.
Okay, I've got James and then Sharon. James Hurley.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, firstly an observation and then a question. I note John's comments on the annual benefit statement and the valuation challenges, and that's clearly key aspects of delivery, and it's welcome to hear the focus and the attention being given to address it. Just looking at our own risk register, there isn't discrete reference to that in either the project pace or the valuation risk sections. So that might be something for us, Mike, to go back to, because clearly they're statutory requirements, and we would want to show that our focus in the risk process is strong. And then a question. Can
I respond to that, James, just quickly? Could I ask that you bring that up under our risk register item? I've made a note, but if I lose my bit of paper, so thank you. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I will do. And then the question, as we're in the 22-23 financial year, is there an impact of the fact that McLeod and Remedy now has a different aspect to it? Is there an aspect of having to draw on the data, use the data to deal with any Remedy and McLeod issues, and is that complicating what's a challenging position?
Do you want me to answer that one, John?
Yeah, can do, Rachel, yeah.
Not at this stage. Obviously, that we fully expect that there will be some data implications from Remedy, but it isn't impacting what we're processing at the minute. The key thing that we are doing with the whole McLeod piece of work is working with the software providers to understand what is going to be system driven and what is going to be manual intervention in due course. But it's not we're not at that stage that anything that we're doing yet is impacting on the, you know, the statements and the valuation submission, etc. But it's you know, it's certainly one that we are watching very, very closely. We you know, don't underestimate the impact that could have over the next few months.
Mike, can I just a follow up? I think I saw from the papers that there's some 21% of the member cohort who could be impacted. So from your last comment, Rachel, you're anticipating that might become quite a sizable volume challenge.
I can't comment on the numbers. That sounds high to me, if I'm honest, from the conversations that I've been involved with. But the honest answer is we're not at that stage that we know the number that could be impacted. Our kind of hope really is that, you know, by jointly working with the software providers, that, you know, a lot of the solution will be driven through the system, but we're not naive to think that that will be the answer in isolation. We've got an internal working group. We're looking at things, all things to do with McLeod, but one of the things is resource, and whether we need to be bringing in experienced administrators, you know, with one eye on that piece of work. But there in itself is a challenge, because all administrators are looking for experienced administrators, because, you know, partly because they are, partly because of McLeod. So they're not the easiest things to find at the minute, but we certainly have those conversations weekly. It's certainly something that is high on our agenda to be up to date with.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sharon.
Thank you. I found the fund membership charts really interesting. Thank you for these. But I was concerned at the number of deferred members that potentially over pension age. And I noted somewhere else in the report you had recently completed an address tracing exercise for to improve data quality. But I wondered if there would be an exercise to contact these members about benefit options.
To answer that one, Rachel?
Yeah, you can answer that one, John.
Yeah, so what we do at the moment, Sharon, is when people are approaching retirement age, obviously we'll try and make contact and offer them, let them know their benefits are payable. If we haven't got an up-to-date address, we will go through a tracing exercise and try and trace members. Ultimately, we need to make sure that people take the benefits before age 75, because the tax implications, obviously there's another control in place that enables us to do this. At the moment, I'm not sure we're doing anything regularly to try and contact the people that haven't taken their benefits. That said, they will receive an annual deferred benefit statement, which obviously alerts them to the fact that they've gone past their retirement age and that they can take those benefits. So it's done through the annual benefit statement process at the moment, as opposed to a separate exercise.
There is the opportunity as well. We do, we do obviously have a record on file of the members that we've tried to contact in the past to address tracing, and that hasn't worked, which is generally a small percentage. So we do have the ability, if we wanted to do some different tracing exercises in due course. But as John says, the key is when they get to age 75. But the address tracing that we use is pretty robust, but sadly there are just some people we are unable to trace.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I've got to apologise. I've got Sarah.
Yes, sorry, Megan. It was just a question after Sharon's question, and it was that about the address tracing exercise. Perhaps maybe the people that are doing that might want to look at the language in which these letters are written, because we had quite a few former employees contacting us saying, is this genuine? This looks like spam, because they were being asked for, to log on by a certain date and give personal details. And so
Sarah, I do apologise. Can I hold you there? Sorry, Sarah, back to you.
Yes, so it was just about reviewing the language within those letters, because that might have put off a group of people from actually responding, because they might think, oh, it's spam, I'm just going to ignore that. And that was just a comment, really.
Yeah, we can certainly take that away, Sarah, to have a look at. So yeah, we'll take that as an action. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised. So the recommendation is that the board notes the contents of the report. Can I ask you to respond through chat, please? Okay, that's been noted then. Thank you very much. We move then to item 3, which is the pension fund statement of accounts for 21-22. And Philip, you're presenting this, I believe.
I am. Thank you, Chair, and good morning all. As you may be aware, the Department of Levelling Up Housing and Communities announced on the 16th of December that there would be a further extension to the 21-22 audit from the 30th of September to 30th of November 22. In recent years, the fund has had issues obtaining the level 3 asset valuations in time for the draft accounts, and in light of the extended deadline from central government, officers requested a delay in the 21-22 audit with EY. EY was successful in rescheduling the pension fund audit by 3 weeks, with the new audit starting recently on the 11th of July. This was a strategic decision by officers, as although the audit would start later, the audit is likely to be completed quicker as it reduces the risk of the accounts requiring a restatement, similar to the 2021 accounts, which then had to be audited a second time, causing further delay. In addition, due to the requirement from the Financial Reporting Council on auditors, level 3 assets can only be signed off once externally audited reports for those assets have been received. There's been a large increase in level 3 assets over the recent years, which can be seen in the table under 4.2 on page 72 of the agenda pack. And this, combined with a few funds having 31st of March year ends, has meant that audit accounts take a while to be received. By starting the audit later, we're reducing the waiting time for these accounts to be obtained, allowing both officers and auditors to carry on with other business. One implication for the FRC's requirement for audited accounts, though, is when the audit deadline moves back to either the July or September deadline, the fund may have difficulties obtaining information required for audit to sign off. As investment managers often have multiple funds, officers are in dialogue with those investment managers to ensure that level 3 assets are audited earlier to ensure that we get these reports by the deadline. At present, the delay in the audit looks to be successful, with the amount of level 3 assets increasing by 44.3 million since the 31st of March valuations were received. When negative movements are removed from this position, the fund assets have actually moved by 65 million, and this would have required restatement at a later point in time. Due to the audit start being pushed back, the accounts extract hasn't been fully completed. However, the draft fund accounts and asset statements have been produced, which can be seen on page 74 and 75 of the accounts pack, and this shows an estimated increase in value of 285 million since March 21. Fund officers shall bring back the pension fund accounts to Pension Committee on the 29th of September, Audit Committee on the 30th of September, and finally Pensions Board on the 11th of October. As the figures will be finalised shortly, officers will present the breakdown of the main movements from the 21-22 accounts at this meeting. In addition, if the audit has been completed by the next Pension Board meeting, we will bring the audit results reports back. However, if it hasn't been received, officers shall bring it back to a later Pension Board meeting. That's all I was going to say on this paper. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions, anyone? No hands raised at the moment, but oh yes, there is. James Hurley.
Yes, thank you. It's just an observation on the figures sort of presented. I can see the management expenses have gone up quite considerably by 23%, and the overall net assets have gone up by 3 to 4%. Perhaps, for a future meeting, it'd be helpful just to get some contextualization of what's driving such a significant increase in the management expenses.
Yep, so when I bring back the paper at the next board, I will have a breakdown of all those large movements, and that'll be presented to you on the 11th of October meeting.
I believe so, yes, thank you. I'm just quickly checking my order paper. Yes, the 11th of October. Okay. Are you satisfied with that interim response, James?
Yes, I look forward to the further information.
Okay. Any other people? Yes, James Kidd.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, just on the audit front, and from our point of view, we're not going to start our audit until 2023. So there are serious delays within the sector. So you've done very well to get it in so early. So just wondering if EY had any comment at this stage about next year and how they're going to cope. Because I know that the audit market are really under pressure at the moment, and so yeah, have they had any comment about their plans for next year?
So from EY perspective, we haven't had any comments for the next year's audit. Obviously, it depends on when the audit deadline is. As I mentioned, we didn't hear for this year's audit deadline till December. The government decided to release that quite late. One comment we have had in the past, however, though, is as the pension fund is quite a large pension fund, and as the HCC is a big county council, we are seen as priority for EY. So EY do try and fit us in, because obviously our audit is required for yourselves, districts and boroughs and other employers of the fund. So we are a priority. So hopefully we should be early on the schedule.
Lovely, thank you.
James Hurley, your hand is still shown as raised. Is that a new question or from the previous one?
I'll remove the hand.
Thank you. Any others? Not seeing any. So that being the case, I move the recommendation that the Pension Board notes the content of this report. Would you like to vote in the usual way? Okay, that is noted. Do we know whether Tim has rejoined us? Have you managed to rejoin Tim? Are you there? Don't think he is. Okay.
He's not back in yet, Chair.
Right, so we are still quiet though, are we? Just double checking.
And Rob McCarthy has also been able to join us as well.
That's lovely. Thank you very much and welcome, Rob. Okay, move then to item 4, which is the Pension Fund Risk Register report. And this is Rob Winterton to present this.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, welcome back, Tim, just for Okay, over to you, Bob.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So this is the Risk Register report for the last quarter of 21-22, so January to March 2022. And the Risk Register is shown in Appendix A, which is page 83 of the agenda pack. Just wanted to go through a few of the updates. One point being that the Risk Register is now being reviewed by our investment consultant Mercer and our actuary Hymans on a quarterly basis, just to give us a bit more sort of scrutiny, so we can give you the most appropriate updates as we can. There have been 2 new risks in the last quarter. B7 has been added, which is the Russia invasion of Ukraine. We've included this, although the fund has a minimal investment exposure in Russia. This invasion, as we all know, has led to issues on the global market. We've put the risk as amber at the moment, and this is mainly due to the fund's equity protection strategy, which we have, which will mitigate against any large losses. We've also included risk F6, which is pensions dashboard, as a green risk. Officers felt that this risk was needed to create awareness following a recent government consultation on the requirement to publish member information onto the pensions dashboard. So as I say, we've initially rated this as green, but this will be likely to increase as and when fund officers receive more detail in the future. There's also been 2 changes to the register. Risk E3, which is weak data management, increases exposure to cybercrime. Although this is still an amber risk, we have increased the risk around the likelihood that the fund would be impacted by cybercrime. So this has increased from unlikely to possible, and this is due to the potential consequences of the Russia invasion of Ukraine and the potential threat we now have from Russia. We've also changed E4, which is the pension transfer fraud risk. This has gone from amber to yellow, because the officers have reduced the likelihood of this risk from unlikely to remote, and this is mainly due to the new transfer guidance and rules that have been produced following changes to the Finance Act 2021. This has led to the improvement of processes that allow the fund to review a transfer out if it is deemed to be suspicious. That's all really I was going to say on the report, but happy to take any questions.
Not James Hurley.
Hello, yes, Mike. Yes, you asked me to just
indeed
raise a risk point. I mentioned on the first item. So
were you in the meeting at that point, Rob? Did you capture that?
Yes, yeah. So that risk, the risk register, because we've done it for the January to March period, we weren't actually aware of the potential problems that we might come across. So that risk will be reviewed as part of the next quarter's risk register and will be rated accordingly.
Thank you. I trust you find that satisfactory, James?
Yes, yep. And once again, welcome, then an understanding of the mitigations and the confidence on that.
Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. No, in that case, we are asked to note and comment, which we have done, on the contents of the report. So can I ask you to vote in the usual way, please? Okay, so that is duly noted. We move then to item 5, which is the employer risk and governance. And Anne, I believe you're presenting this one. Anne, over to you.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. This is the employer risk and governance report for January to March 2022. For the benefit of our new members, this report provides the Pension Board with further detail into the employer risk function of the fund and overall fund performance, which includes audit reviews and our pension administrators' performance. In section 4.1, we have analysed scheme employers by risk categories. Red risk-rated employers remained consistent with last quarter. The number of employers being monitored under each risk category is outlined in Appendix A. Although the number of red risk-rated employers remained consistent with the last quarters, there has been movement in this category. We've had one employer join the non-payment of contributions category and one employer leaving the ceased employer with outstanding deficits category. Further detail is provided in Table 3, which provides a breakdown of the 24 scheme employers in the red risk category. Yes, Table 3. Yeah. The governance update in Appendix C highlights the discussions with auditors regarding the external audit, which Phil has discussed in his paper. It also notes the number of complaints decreasing this quarter, with further details of complaints and IDRPs outlined in Appendix D. Please note that complaints, IDRPs, and breaches will be reported by the LPPA in future reports. Details of late payers and forms are outlined in Appendix E with a summary of performance over the last 6 months. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Okay, any questions? Not seeing any hands raised. I'll take it then that we're all happy. In that case, I'll move the recommendation that we're invited to comment and we note the contents of the report. So could you vote in the usual way, please?
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Okay, so that is agreed and noted, and thank you, Anne. Please don't take the lack of comments as lack of interest. I think it's a clearly set out report, so thank you for that. On then to item 6, which is the fund policies review, and Taryn, I believe you're presenting this one.
I am. Good morning.
Over to you.
Thank you. So this report provides an update on the implementation of the new abatement policy, the governance compliance statement and the pensions administration strategy. At the March Pensions Committee, members approved the new abatement policy, which was no longer abate pension scheme members who become re-employed. Officers were asked by committee to provide an update on the implementation of the new policy. LPPA reviewed 910 abatement cases, which resulted in 23 members having their pension put back into payment or increased to what it would have been if it hadn't been abated. This increased the monthly pensions payroll of approximately 11 million by just over £5,000, which is a 0.05% increase of the total monthly payroll. With regards to the the governance compliance statement, we're required to publish this under section 55 of the LGPS regulations, which sets out how the administration of the fund is governed. The statement is kept under review and is amended in light of regulatory changes or following changes in governance arrangements to the pension fund and is published within the pension fund annual report and accounts. The statement was last reviewed and approved by Pensions Committee in March 2020. And the latest draft attached has been reviewed and updated to illustrate the training arrangements for the Pensions Committee and Pension Board. The Pensions Administration Strategy review has been delayed due to the pension regulator's single code of practice not being finalised. The single code of practice is intended to replace the 10 existing codes of practice and outlines employers' and administrators' responsibilities within the fund. A further update will be provided at future meetings. So that's all I was going to say. If anybody has any questions, please.
Okay, any questions or comments for Taryn? No, I'm not seeing any. That being the case, then the recommendation is that the Pension Board notes the completion of the LPPA's abatement review project and notes the revised governance compliance statements as set out in Appendix A. So again, vote in the usual way, please. Okay, that has been agreed. So on to item 7, which I believe is Taryn again on the training 21-22. So over to you, Taryn.
Thank you. So this report provides board with details of training delivered and received by Pensions Committee and Pensions Board from April 21 to March 22. Pensions Board members already have a legal requirement to have the required knowledge and understanding of scheme rules, documents recording scheme administration policies and law. There is also a legal requirement for the Pension Board members to receive adequate training to meet the knowledge and understanding requirements. Following the Good Governance project, a key recommendation to DLUC by the Scheme Advisory Board was to introduce a requirement for key individuals in the LGPS to have the appropriate level of knowledge and understanding to carry out their duties effectively. This includes pensions committee members and officers, as well as pension board members. In readiness for this requirement, fund officers have worked with Hymans Robertson to develop a training plan for pension committee and local pension board members, covering a wide variety of topics delivered through various channels. Significant training has been delivered to committee and board members over the last year, which can be complemented with the use of the LGPS Online Learning Academy, or LOLA. The video on demand service and e-learning platform has been made available to committee and board members as well as officers, and consists of 6 modules providing crucial information that relates to the Pension Regulators Code of Practice 14 and SIPFED's Knowledge and Skills Framework. The modules vary in length and do not have to be completed in one go. So that's all I was going to say on that paper. If there's any questions, please.
Right, Adam, you've raised your hand.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions about these modules. So the first question is, how long do they take? Can we know how long they should take before we start them? Because I did try to log in, and actually the first module had 17 different parts. It looked very, very long. And I didn't know that I could. I thought I was going to be able to do it in one go, but that wasn't the case. And the second point is there any way that we can take the test first to check our knowledge and then to go back if we need to, rather than just go through the whole thing from beginning to end and find out actually we may not have needed it? So that was the second question. I couldn't see an option to do that, and I was just wondering if that was a possibility. Thank you.
Okay, so your first point, we can add some details to the governance training newsletter that we send round in terms of how many modules there, or how many items there are in each module, and the length of time it's expected to take for each of those. Some of the items in there are like repeats, and they're almost for accessibility, so they're different ways of presenting the same information. In terms of whether you can take the test up front, I'm not sure, so I'll have a look and I'll speak to Hymans and see if it's something that can be done.
That would be useful.
Thank you.
I just over that, Adam. Yep. Tim.
Thanks, Chairman. I think a couple of very good questions from Adam there. I have worked through all 6 modules. I would say the shortest was about an hour, and some of them went on for nearly 2 hours. They were very good in content, but once you have listened to so many videos, you start losing the will to live. And I think the point, 2 points from Adam I'd like to kind of add to is, yes, it would be very useful to have a time estimate up front, and yes, very useful to see what the test is, which you cannot access until you've been through all 16 parts of the training. So I think in presentation and content, there's some I wouldn't have bothered to go through them. There were others that were very useful, and knowing what the learning points were in advance would have been very useful. It's a bit of a slog if you want to go through them all. I think we deserve some recognition, medals, and at least some biscuits from County Council for that.
Thank you, Tim. Well, you can have a virtual biscuit. There you go. With these virtual meetings, that's all we have. Any other questions or comments? Well, if there aren't, it brings me to the recommendation, which I don't want to lead the board too much, but it does say here that the pension board members note the content of the report and make a commitment to undertake the LOLA modules in order to develop their knowledge and understanding of the local government pension scheme. Does anybody want to suggest we put that to the vote, or does anybody want to suggest an amendment to it? Okay, I'm just concerned that if I put that to the vote, someone's raised their hand. Tim, or is that up from before?
No. I'm wondering if best efforts might appear in there or something of that nature. That it is certainly, if you're going to work through the 6 modules, be aware it took me, I would say, at least 4 mornings to work through them all. There is quite a commitment
Yes.
So I think members do need to be aware of that.
Yeah.
It's easy for us retired ones that haven't got anything to do, but anyway.
I've done 4 of the 6, so so we are you're wanting best efforts and make best efforts to undertake. So rather than make a commitment, make best efforts. Is that going to? Okay, I'm going to, unless I see a hand raised to counter that suggestion, that is what I'm going to ask that the recommendation be changed to, so that the pension board members note the content of the report and make best efforts to undertake the LOLA modules in order to develop their knowledge and understanding of the local government pension scheme. So that being the case, can I put that to the vote, please? And this time it should be an agreed rather than a noted, I suppose. It's unusual for us. Okay, the amended recommendation has just been agreed. So we're then on to item 8, which is the access update. Rob, this is back to you, I believe.
That's correct, Chairman. So this is a update on access. What I'm going to do is just point you to some of the sections of the report. So section 4, page 132 of the agenda pack provides a summary of the governance of the access pool and the role of the operator. Section 5, page 133, this explains the recently reviewed and agreed principles for the establishment of sub-funds, recognising the sovereignty of each fund in determining its local investment strategy. 26 sub-funds have been established with a total asset under management of 24 billion. There is an additional asset under management of 11 billion under access governance. Total of this being 35 billion, with Hertfordshire County Council holding 2.8 billion in access, which is I don't know the percentage offhand. Sorry, I should have worked that out. But yeah, 2.8 billion in access. MJ Hudson, external advisor, was appointed to assist access officers in the development of an illiquid asset fund. This was approved by the Joint Committee and will be launching property as its first fund, which is expected to be launched within the next 12 months after going through procurement and various meetings within access. Table 3 on page 135 of the agenda pack shows the council's annual forecasted savings of 1.5 million from pooled assets. It should be noted that these savings will be reduced by the investment in the Dodge & Cox sub-fund, which was funded by disinvestment from UBS passive funds, which are charged at a lower rate fee than the active funds, which Dodge & Cox sub-fund will be. Section 5.9, page 136 on the agenda pack sets out future investments that will increase Hertfordshire County Council's inflows. Blue Bay emerging market managers and quality managers when appointed. In addition, future commitments to a liquid will go through access funds once established. Table 4 in section 6, page 137 of the agenda pack shows the final spend for the year, an underspend of 200k and budget for this financial year. And it takes into account the business activities for the year. Section 7, page 137 of the agenda pack states amendments that will be needed on the inter-authority agreement, which is actually underway at the moment, with drafts being worked on to incorporate these amendments. And section 7.2 sets out the constitutional process of this. Section 8, Table 6 on page 138 to 139 shows the current Hertfordshire position of assets under management in and outside the pool. 8.2 explains why the percentage of assets in access have fallen, which is due to the fall in Baillie Gifford's asset values. And finally, Section 9 provides an update of the review on the draft responsible investment guidelines for the pool, and a summary version of these guidelines will be covered as a part 2 item later on. That was really just a sort of quick run through of the report, but happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised. That being the case, I move that the Pension Board notes the content of the report. If you could vote in the usual way, please. Okay, that is duly noted. Okay, we move then to item 9, which is the asset rebalancing review. Again, I believe, Rob, you're going to start by introducing this and then possibly hand over to Sandy. Is Sandy with us? I haven't noticed his... yes, he is. Well, welcome, Sandy, who's from Mercer. So over to you then, Rob.
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick brief introduction before I hand over to Sandy. So following on from a paper from the rebalancing paper presented to Pension Committee on the 29th of March, at which the decision to rebalance was deferred until the July committee meeting. Mercer have done some additional analysis using the 31st of May asset balance set out in Appendix A, and have concluded that as market volatility is ongoing and as there is equity protection in place, they are strategically comfortable that the fund should not rebalance at present. Mercer do propose that we do review our strategic asset allocation to real and alternative assets and suggest this is done as part of the investment strategy review. I will now pass over to Sandy just to take you through the appendix.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Chair. Hopefully everyone can hear me all right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. So, I mean, one of the reasons we have a rebalancing policy in place is because alongside that for evaluation every 3 years, we review the investment strategy, and that sets out how much we invest in different asset classes. And this is really key because it really does define the expected return on the assets, but also critically the risk that the portfolio is running. So it's really important investment discipline to have these rebalancing to make sure you're not increasing or decreasing risk too much compared to this long-term investment strategy that you do spend time setting. And as Robert mentioned, it's something that the committee will be reviewing again alongside the 2022 actuary evaluation. So that's the key of why we have rebalancing. Is very good investment discipline, and has been shown. And it's quite a difficult decision. You're selling assets that have probably done quite well and reinvesting into assets that have done less well in that period, which can be tough, but it's important and it is shown to be benefit over the long term. Now, Robert sort of touched on what we've done is we took 31st of May asset values for the assets of the fund that we could get 31st of May asset values. So we're talking about more liquid listed equities, the bonds. We had to use older pricing for some of the alternatives, the property, the private equity, etc., because they don't provide valuations in time. So we tried to get an updated position. It did show, and you can see this on page 146 of the impact, that the fund was overweight to equities. But there were two considerations when I was writing this paper. The first was that there is equity protection in place, so that reduces the risk that equities pose. And as I mentioned, rebalancing is to maintain investment discipline on risk. So we're already doing that with the equity protection. The second point was, and I wrote this paper, or I finalised this paper on the 22nd of June to make sure I could meet the committee meeting pack deadline. And between 31st of May and the 22nd of June, equity markets had fallen about 6 or 7% as well. So just because of that, I knew the equity overweight that we're showing here is probably even out of date, even though we tried to update as much as possible. And so you're probably closer to the rebalancing range. So factoring all those considerations, we thought it was best to not rebalance at this stage. We're going to formally review the investment strategy. And of course, we do quarterly monitoring. And so within that, we'll always see if we're overweight and underweight these asset classes. So if necessary, we can propose rebalancing at other stages as well. Happy to answer any questions. The committee have already agreed the recommendation to not rebalance. So happy to take any questions though.
Okay, any questions or comments? I don't. Oh yes, James. Early.
Yes, it was just a point on page 147, and at the top of it's page 3 of that specific report. There's a reference to being overweight against global equities, and then also being underweight in real assets, and effectively one offsetting the other. So the question is, why is it relevant for us for real assets to offset global equities?
Yeah, so again, we're trying to make sure it's back to this sort of risk point, and there's sort of correlations between different things, and I'd probably normally look at private equity really more so than the others, but the other alternatives do have some equity-like characteristics. So it's really, if we're overweight one section and underweight the other, there's this sort of overlap there. Also, in terms of rebalancing, we probably want to rebalance into those real assets, and as you probably know, a lot of them take a lot of time to invest in. We're talking about maybe, as sort of private equity and other illiquid assets that have some equity exposure. Then we'd be rebalancing to that's going to take some time, which is why again we're comfortable to go, let's do the investment strategy review to make sure we're comfortable with our investment strategy, and it aligns with the sort of the risk and return characteristics, align with sort of the results from the actuarial valuation that will be is ongoing.
Okay, are you happy with that, James? Yes. Any other questions or comments? No. Then I move the recommendation that the pension board we discussed. Thank you for that, James. The contents of the attached paper from our investment consultants, and I suppose we should also note. So we discuss and note the contents. Yeah, if you could vote in the usual way, please. Okay, that has been agreed and noted, which brings us to the dates of the future meetings, which are as set out on the agenda paper, the 11th of October, the 9th of December, the 17th of March and the 11th of July. I'd just like to raise a question at this point. From a personal point of view, not having to travel into County Hall for these meetings means I save an hour each side of the meeting, which is welcome. However, I wonder whether we could strive to meet in person once a year, say, so that we can sort of build up the I don't know, almost the collegiate camaraderie that is there. So that I just put that out for comment. Tim, you've raised your hand, I see.
I was going to suggest exactly the same, Chairman. Great mind.
Great minds think alike. Or was it fools never differ? I'm not sure.
I think we possibly fall into the later category, yes.
Any other comments on that? Is that considered a good idea or a bad idea? I think hang on, someone's raised their hand. Jolien.
Yeah, I need to say, yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. I'd support that.
Right. I appreciate that this will. I heard two other people have raised, so let me let others speak first. Brian, I see your hand up. Brian, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, Mike, having some problems here with the camera. Just a quick question on that. If it were to go ahead, I'm all in favour, but if circumstances were such that an individual couldn't attend physically, would the virtual option still be there?
That is a possibility. I think
hybrid meeting. Yeah.
Yes, a hybrid meeting. I think possibly it would probably be fairer to throw this back to those who do the work around organising these meetings, ask them to look into the possibility of that, because I believe the County Council has some limited facility for hybrid meetings, so it would be dependent on whether those facilities were being used by another meeting on our date. But I'm sensing the general agreement with that, and maybe I should be brave and put that to the vote. So can I just ask you, this isn't a formal vote, but it's because we can't actually sort of do a nod around the room because of the nature of the meeting, if you could just indicate in the chat whether you're generally in favour. Well, rather than hold up, because it's not a substantive vote per se, but it's important I got the feel of you. I'll continue to then close part one of the meeting. So the public part of this meeting will now end, and we will enter closed session to consider exempt business. This concludes the part one meeting.